Welcome into another off-season edition of Bare Bones. My name is Mason West, and as always, I am joined by Danny Meehan. Danny, how are you doing today?
I'm good, Mason. How are you?
Pretty good. It's our first mock was in the off-season because our team sucks and didn't make it far enough in the playoffs to be relevant. So now we're in the true off-season. There isn't any more football unless you count the USFL starting, and so now our mocks are getting obviously quite serious.
And my draft prep is getting very, very, very serious. Look out for building the board, everyone. It's coming.
And then I said this last episode, I'm going to lean on Danny's expertise in a lot of things that are coming up mock and player wise, just because I'm not going to lie, I don't have the time or wherewithal to dive into all the players like I probably should. So,
No, you just
don't
have the commitment, Mason. It's not time, it's commitment. All right.
I do not have the commitment to be watching college football tape at 3 a.m. I just don't. I'm in
just
bed.
hundreds and hundreds of players. Yeah,
Yeah, there is a limit. But before we get to the mock, there is some Bears news to talk about. The Bears sent out an email titled "Chicago Bears Open Letter Regarding Closing on Arlington Heights Park Property." Some of the takeaways: this is another step towards Arlington Park property being with the finalization of the purchase. According to the Bears, this does not guarantee the land will be developed, but it's an important step. And also, the development of the Arlington Heights property would be one of the largest mega projects in Midwest history. It could create 1,000 jobs, have a $9.4 billion economic impact, and provide $3.9 billion in new labor. Danny, what are your thoughts?
I think it was just the kind of the foregone conclusion, like the second it was announced that they were interested in the property and you heard that, they gave the checklist to the city of Chicago that they needed to, let them have a sports book, let them own the land, let them own the stadium itself. And they said no to all of it. It was the writing on the wall. They're leaving. Like it was never really a thought. Even once they announced that they were exploring it, that's where they were going because the Arlington racetrack was gone, and they can effectively make that Bears land. There's going to be a casino. There's going to be a hotel. There's going to be parking garages. It's just going to be a giant Bears amusement park, effectively, and they can pocket all the money from it. It makes sense. It always made sense.
Yeah, I mean,
for that matter.
A good example from when I was doing some of the Chicago Audible stuff last year. I remember the game would end, the press conferences would end, and we were sitting there trying to find a place to do the podcast live from the stadium, and we would be getting kicked out constantly by the cleaning crews. And then when we would say something to the Bears PR, like, "Hey, can't be a part, can't find us a room," they'd basically say, just do what you can, because they didn't own the dang building. Like, the cleaning crews could do what they wanted because they were employed by the city of Chicago and we got moved. So long story short, the Bears would own this straight up and they can do what the heck they want, not just in the stadium, but with all of that land, which, as you said, really would just be, Hallis Mania, Bears land, however you want to put it.
Yeah. Sweetness Park. I think you pick your Bears legend and throw it in there and make it a. Yeah, there you go.
One thing that I liked the most, though, was with Lori Lightfoot and Chicago's response to that. In the second paragraph, they misspelled soldier in Soldier Field. Like, if you're going to basically be saying, hey, no, we still hope that we can fix this, spell it right.
Well, it's just like the thought process of they think that the Bears are going to lose the ability to be the Chicago Bears. Like, no, not many teams play in their cities anymore. The Cowboys aren't in Dallas. I believe they're technically in Fort Worth, right? The San Francisco 49ers are not in San Francisco. They're in Santa Clara or Santa Monica. I don't know the regions of California that well. I know it's Santa something or other. But it's like they're going to be the Bears. They're not going to leave the city of Chicago and then all of a sudden be like, oh, we're the Arlington Park Grizzlies or something like that. It's going to be the Chicago Bears. It's the charter franchise.
Absolutely. 100%. And it's, what is it? The mileage isn't even enough to even be worried about it. They're not playing down in Springfield. It's Arlington Heights. I don't know. Everyone needs to calm down on that. It's happening. It's just a matter of when, not if. And as someone who lives,
be
sign of what's to come, considering what he's doing in this bank.
I mean, as someone who lives on the northwest side of the city, I'm not going to complain about them going to Arlington Heights.
I think we discussed this perk enough. You guys aren't here for that. Y'all are here to have a conversation about the draft. As we talked about last time, obviously this is 100% accurate, and Danny and I are predicting these to perfection. But in our reality, that's not what this is, right? In our reality, this is an exercise for Danny and myself to get to know some of these prospects better, and for you too, to get to know some of these prospects, so that when you're doing your own mock drafts, so that when you're seeing these numbers come out at the combine and the pro days, that you're like, oh, I remember Danny really liked PJ Mustipher out of Penn State, and
why would you do that to me? This accusation that I just adore PJ Mustipher in the chat and on the show. What is this?
I'm just gonna say it until it just becomes a thing on the Twitterverse that you just love PJ.
That Danny just loves PJ Mustipher
in any of our drafts. Yeah, because neither of us are gonna take him in our draft. So I got to get him in somewhere.
Oh, that's great.
Following on Twitter, whether it was with myself, Danny, or with Second City Gridiron, Windy City Gridiron, you knew that Khari Thompson, guest star, was going to come on and give us his thought process, but he's not going to be here. He had daddy duty that came up, so you're stuck with just
friend of the show, Khari Thompson.
But he'll be back. Don't worry. He's going to save his picks. He's going to save his thought process for another day. So now to it. A couple rules just as a reminder. For right now, we're still only doing one trade. So keep that in mind when you're looking at what we're seeing here. And we can't redraft. So if you're sitting there being like, why the heck did Mason not take Jalen Carter? Well, it's because I took him last time we did this, and I can't take him again, is what it is.
Until the final rendition.
Until the final rendition, where we'll do it live, we'll be a brain trust, and we'll sit there and chat and figure out who we're going to take and go through it that way. But as you can see, I just threw my picks up there. Oh, my trade. I didn't want to do all the picks. Ignore that. You didn't see that. Basically, I traded with the Seahawks, keeping it equal. I have to do the exact same thing. I realized I did it for your picks too. So I'll just read them out loud and we'll through the slide. But basically, I traded with the Seahawks. In that trade, I was able to snag the 2 first-round picks. I believe, I'm trying to remember, I think they ended up taking a quarterback, actually, I think, with their pick when they traded up to number 1, which you can argue if you think that'll happen or not. I'm not a big Geno Smith guy. I think you only pick 5 frequently unless you're the Browns of old. But yeah, so I ended up, I'm just trying to take a peek here. I gave up the first-round pick, got 5th pick, 20th pick, their 2nd-round pick, and a future first. So I think it was a pretty good deal on my end. With that first pick, ended up taking Myles Murphy of Clemson. Now, 6'5", 273. He's got the floor of an NFL starter. He played in 13 games in 2022 and recorded 23 tackles, 10 assists, and while making 22 stops. As a pass rusher, he produced 34 total pressures, 21 QB hurries, 7 QB hits, and 6 sacks. He's got good size, great speed off the edge, and ability to turn the corner. He can also win going speed to power with a solid leg drive to push blockers back. Possesses length and power to ward off offensive tackles. His spin move, if you have a chance watching some of his highlights, it's absolutely ridiculous. He has the get off burst to fire upfield and use that length to attack blocks. And he's pretty good against the run, too. Even as a freshman, he posted a 92.5 run grade, which led the entire nation. Freak athlete, athletic skill. He can play a bit tall at times, though, and can lose leverage and struggles to shed blockers if he really has a solid tackle on him, and lacks diversity in his rush moves. So is there a ceiling? Can he develop some of those rush moves? I look at him as potentially like a Trayvon Walker type. Yeah, that's who I picked first after I traded back at my pick, number 5.
Number 5.
And going to flip through that so that no one sees all of your picks, Danny. But just to remind everyone what you ended up doing, you traded back with the Panthers, giving up the first pick, this year's 5th round pick, a future 4th. Wow, that's an interesting combo. But you received this year's 9th from the Panthers, their 9th and 3rd rounder, their 4th rounder, a future 1st, 3rd, another future 1st, and a future 4th. That's a lot of capital moving back.
Yeah, it was one of those things. When I was playing with it, like I didn't know where. Like I was like trying to like use charts, and I was like, where would it make up? Where would points kind of equalize? The simulators are so broken for what you can get in a trade back kind of thing. But I know like when you're going 9-1, you're going from the back end of the top 10 to the top spot. So it's going to be a little bit more hefty of a price than moving from 4-1, let's say. And truth be told, I was having a little bit of issues with the simulator itself where it was like I'd get to the end of the draft and it would kick me out and reset it. And it finally went through, and I just did not like how this draft turned out in general. But I tried to make it a little bit different. So with the 9th pick, I ended up taking Jackson Smith-Jigba from Ohio State University, the wide receiver. And don't ask me why I did this. It was more just
Twitter very happy with that draft choice. I'm pretty sure I see his name at least 20 times a day.
The problem is I just don't think he's a top 10 talent. I don't think he's a top 15 talent, really. But he makes sense, and it's hard to argue with sense when you're talking about getting weapons for Justin Fields, especially a guy that Justin has now name dropped on the Part of My Take podcast, has a prior history with him back at Ohio State. So to kind of just give you a quick rundown on Jackson Smith-Jigba, he's kind of your tougher than hell, run after catch, slot receiver, zero fear going over the middle. He has a tendency to find soft spots in the zone. He's a really natural, fluid route runner, though he does tend to round things off at the top and maybe kind of give away where his breaks and his moves are going to be to try to sell the route, because he's just not he's one speed. He doesn't really have a great top end. He's more fluid than he is anything in terms of his athleticism. Like, it's very smooth to watch him, not so much like explosive and get the hell downfield like you would imagine like Jalen Waddle was coming out, or Henry Ruggs, which obviously not a great person, but kind of that's sort of athlete. The other kind of thing to worry about with him is he really only had one season of production at Ohio State. Lost a lot of time this year due to injury, and Marvin Harrison Jr. kind of taking over as the man, even when he was healthy earlier this year. And I do wonder if he is, in so many words, just slot only. Like, I don't see him having much, if any, ability to line up outside because of his athletic limitations. It's funny that so many people that I have so many concerns about his athleticism and being slot only, because that kind of leads me to kind of believe he's a little bit like Jarvis Landry meeting Julian Edelman in that kind of realm of just slot only, tough as hell, like wide receivers who make their living as zone beaters who went off acumen and being a wide receiver, not a great athlete.
Yeah, I mean, absolutely. He's definitely a very talented. He's benefiting from it not being the strongest wide receiver class in terms of where he's kind of slotting in, as well as the fact that, being an Ohio State wide receiver, the connection to Justin Fields. Justin did name drop him, of course, too, which helps. And that's why I think there's such a call for him. I'm confident he'll be an NFL contributor. I definitely would not pick him any higher than where you are, for sure, Danny. Like, I mean, there's some people.
I don't even think I'd really
make him a top
like
5 pick. It's wild.
Mason, I'll be real with you. If they really, that's who their heart was set on, I get it at 9. Like, say if that were the trade back they'd make, I'd almost want them to trade back another once or twice.
I prefer him in the team.
Yeah, I prefer him in the teens, maybe even 20s. I just don't think this receiver class is all that special.
Yeah, 14, I'd be like, okay, I gotcha. You said 20, 22, I'd be like, there you go. You got it. But
Yes,
that's what
sir.
happens when you, in theory, have what you call a weaker class.
Yep, especially in comparison
but
to the other two.
now it's back another first round pick with that trade back with the Seahawks. And you're at pick 20. Very excited. Love Zay's game. 5'9", 182. He really could have come out last year, but he decided to go back to Boston College, and it was a good call just because, again, weaker wide receiver draft this year, and he really made a name for himself. He played in 12 games, 78 catches for 1,077 yards, 12 touchdowns, and he had a quarterback rating of 106.1 when he was targeted. He's small, of course, at 5'9", 182, but he makes up for it with long feet and quickness. Extremely dangerous in the open field, showing some crazy vision, creativity to run through defenses. I would expect him to run incredibly well on pro days. Violent runner with on his hands, very good at working on numbers, and has pretty amazing ball track skills. It does the little things well downfield to creation, and leaves enough room on the sideline for his quarterback to drop a nice little dime in there. Explosives off the line, and can adjust to 4 throws, which is he had to do with Boston College's quarterback. Not exactly great. When the play breaks down, his off-script route running is great, which would pair amazingly well with Justin. He had too many drops. He had 9 in 2022, and we'll need to develop some consistency there. Small catch radius due to size, and probably is going to be kind of a net negative as a run blocker. But it's kind of the lazy take, but the obvious one that jumps out to me is he looks like Antonio Brown. That's just in terms of the size, in terms of route running, without the terrible off the field stuff, hopefully, as he comes out. I don't know if he'll make it to 20, to be completely honest. He was on the Senior Bowl team with all of the Patriots staff and media members and everything like that. And I'm pretty, they love him. They absolutely do. So I think they're picking at, 14 or something like that. I'm not sure he even makes it to here, but if you want him, especially if he runs at the combine, I think he's going to solidify himself as a first round pick.
Yeah, I mean, his rise has been meteoric the past few weeks. It's like he was projected to be early, mid-second rounds, and all of a sudden we're talking about him in the mid to late first. It's crazy how fast he's risen, and very well deserved. The kid's film is undeniable. His demeanor on field is undeniable. It's hard not to like what you see when you watch him.
Oh, and as a reminder for all those listening, there is a bit of a snow-ish storm, not a storm, but like there's snow that going on right now in the Chicagoland area. So for any choppy or anything like that, we apologize, but we can't control Mother Nature, so sorry. I get to go again, just again because of some of the
rating
and such that I did.
Have at it.
And I was able to snap defensive interior lineman Kalijah Key. Out of Pittsburgh. He's 6 foot 275. Unfortunately, a bit undersized, so he's going to get a lot of Aaron Donald comparisons, and that's just going to be inevitable. And there are definitely some similarities in Kansas' quickness off the ball and explosive hands to play in certain gaps. He recorded 19 tackles, 4 assists, 21 stops, and as a pass rusher, he had 47 total pressures, including 30 quarterback hurries, 9 quarterback hits, and 8 sacks. Elite athletic skill, strong lower body at the point of attack, and can shed blocks relatively easy. Explodes off the line with a quick first step, with some pretty agile feet to counter inside. Effort pass rusher. I mean, he would be an absolute Eberflus guy. Good initial quickness and the ability to beat blockers to the inside. Pretty raw as a rusher who needs to develop some counter moves, though, unfortunately. Very pursuit conscious and will take some unneeded wide angles as a part of that. His frame presents a challenge. And it's hard to predict what he's going to be at the next level because of that. He has to work overtime to clear his pads and simply cannot afford any technical lapses. He lacks mass and he lacks length. But that's also him in the second round. Lack of size will be more pronounced for NFL blockers, but he has the disruptive qualities that can definitely translate to the pro game. And as we saw, we've seen Aaron Donald do it, who's undersized, but also, I mean, Aaron Donald was made in a lab. So to expect that out of Kalijah would be unfair. But I still think he'd be a solid guy to take a look at in the defensive interior.
Yeah, I would agree with Aaron. I just, like you kind of already mentioned, the Aaron Donald comparisons, especially because he's coming out of Pitt, are just so easy and lazy. But he's got some stuff to like, but he's got a lot to work on. The athleticism is there, but I do wonder, like, for as much as Eberflus and the staff may like his raw ability, I do wonder if they'll like his measurables, because they tend to seem, at least on the surface, to like bigger bodies, despite running the classic cover 2 that we know so well here in Chicago.
Yeah, I think there's a reason why DeForest Buckner with the Colts, Larry Ogunjobi obviously was going to be one of Poles' first signings. Both of those individuals are massive human beings, so it'd be interesting to see where they go after that.
Mm-hmm.
But now Danny's up, round 2, pick 39.
All right. So I actually just recently finished watching this guy, and I'm still iffy on his name. So forgive me on the pronunciation of it. Adetomiwa Adebawore is how I've come to say it. I don't think I did it justice, but I also don't think I destroyed it. The first thing that pops out when you watch him is his ability to play the run. He is relentless backside. He sets the edge. He is a menace against the run, and he just makes life hell on running backs with the way he's able to stack shed and get his way to the running back or ball carrier, whoever it might be. The first step then is the second thing that really comes on like a noticeable plane, in terms of he gets off the ball and he gets off in a hurry. And then you see these long tree vine arms that come shooting out of his shoulder pads that allow him to get leverage and able to get into the tackle's chest. He's a very good, if not elite athlete, that from what I can tell. And the other part that I really like about him is he's lined up at defensive end, he's lined up at defensive tackle, and all sorts of techniques from 1 to 3 to 5 to 9. So he can line up all over the ball, and you can effectively have a defensive line chess piece. Now, what's weird about him is his build overall. While he does have these long, like, arms, he's 6'2" and 285 pounds. So he's almost got like a fire hydrant build for a guy that heavy to be that short. I do wonder if he's kind of more of a jack of all trades, master of none, because he doesn't really have a ton of production. It's all kind of in the theoretical of if you can get his, what I will assume are going to be really good measurables once he runs and does everything at his pro day and combine. Or is he more of a jack of all trades? So, and obviously he's short. How many super short pass rushers can you really remember? I mean, it's easy to point to like the mid-2000s or 2010s Colts with Freeney and Robert Mathis, but short pass rushers just really aren't the most common thing in the world. I just think he might have a leg up because it seems that he has these really long arms. What about you? What do you think, Mason? Any thoughts on him, or haven't you really gotten much into him yet?
I've looked at him. I've been interested in. I think for one, I mean, whenever I've done mock drafts, they just area and being a Northwestern guy, being able to snag someone with that kind of length, and then what we think his measurables will be is, but ultimately, does that matter if he can turn the corner as well as we think he might be able to do?
And that's the big part of it. But like I said, he's just, it feels like he's also theoretical. Like, I love what I watch, and I love the fact that I think he's a ready-made pro in terms of his run stopping ability and his ability to play up and down the line. I just wonder if that limits him because of his height, because of his use all over Northwestern's line, and not just saying, hey, pin your ears back, go learn to do this one position, you know? It's a blessing and a curse in a way.
Yeah, exactly. That makes a lot of sense. All right, I am back up. Round 2, pick 54.
54.
I am taking Jahmyr Gibbs, running back out of Alabama. I was at Georgia before transferring. I mean, I'm not a big college football guy. I'm not going to lie. I just never have been. But I find that wild that he transferred the way he did, and then he's been as productive as he was. I mean, he just has an uncanny ability to get to the line, quickly assess, and then burst through the hole. His vision is amazing. He ran for 850 yards on 136 attempts, at 3 yards per carry, 7 touchdowns, no fumbles. And as a receiver, he made 40. He had 42 receptions for 378 yards. So he definitely is a threat out of the backfield. He'll help the O-line a ton just by setting his blocks. He's a very patient runner. But that's also because his acceleration is ridiculous. He can be patient because his 0 to 60 is just wild from a dead stop. His pass catching skills also make it very dynamic and advanced feel for block design. He's only going to be 21 years old by the time he's drafted, so there's some prime years there. And he's been clocked as high as 22.3 miles per hour on some of his 70-plus yard touchdowns. So him and Justin could have some races, which would be fantastic. It's rare to see a running back possess both the pass catching he has and also his power ability to run. And he can really fit with any NFL offense, whether it's pretty run heavy, pass heavy, and would be really coveted. His size and run power may be an issue, but you can let Herbert be the battering ram and let him come in and be more of that change of pace back. He's doing another running back in this offseason. Pass blocking is pretty far from where it needs to be. So that's you don't have a Montgomery back, and your 2 running backs are going to be Herbert, who struggled with pass blocking, and then now Gibbs, who has struggled with pass blocking. Do you need to do more tight end sets instead of just to survive? So right now, he can't really be the bell cow because of that. He's just in terms of what he can do. I mean, he's basically like a faster Deebo Samuel. Not saying he's going to be productive as Deebo Samuel, but just in terms of the skill set he brings. I mean, you can have him in the backfield. You can have him split out slot if you needed to, just to try to get your matchups. He's a very interesting product that I think you can get in the back end of the second round.
I think that's an excellent assessment, and I think Jahmyr Gibbs is going to actually rise when he starts testing and stuff. The film is undeniable. I think he's easily, for me at this point, the second best running back in this class. And just I love what he can do. I think he actually has 3-down potential just because of his ability to catch the ball and his ability to run. Like you said, he's just a natural gifted runner.
Just a quick comment here from Richard Long. Herbert's no battering ram. I basically disagree. I keep running. Bears struggled in the goal line a lot. But when he's put his head down, plants his foot, that's just my point of view.
All right. So for my third pick out of UCLA, a player that Mason actually took in our last episode, Zach Charbonnet, running back out of UCLA. Now, I actually kind of think he's the best quote-unquote fit of the higher-end running backs in this draft for the Bears system. He's a very patient runner. He almost patient to the point where he has like some of that David Montgomery issue where it's like, dude, will you just get upfield? But he is a linear runner, very high cut, 6'2", 220 pounds. Does very well for himself in terms of like the straight line speed. He takes a minute to get there, but once he's there, he actually is pulling away from people. So has the ability to go through you or run past you in some regard, as long as he gets enough running room and like out of the handoff in terms of just instead of getting hit right away. The other thing I really liked about him is while he's still developing in pass protection, he's very willing. He's willing to put that body on the line and really deliver shots to defensive linemen and linebackers coming in on the blitz. And because he isn't a diminutive back and he is a bigger, stronger running back, he can definitely put some punishment on them and make them work for it. As I kind of already covered, he's a little tentative at times in terms of like his being overly patient. Does run high. And he's not really overly shifty or nimble. He's kind of just one move or one cut go, which is exactly what the zone scheme is, just cut and go. I would actually he does remind me a bit of Matt Forte and how he plays, probably just because the build is very similar. He's taller. He's like just, really bigger running back. But he's my favorite fit for this offense in this draft. But we really don't need to go too far into him, given that we covered him a little bit last week.
Yeah, absolutely. Obviously, if you want to hear some more of my thoughts on, and Danny's as well on Zach, but I mean, I agree with Danny. He's probably one of the better, just pure fits for the Bears in terms of what he's going to do, in terms of just stick the footing and go. So, if you want deeper thoughts, listen to last week's episode. We got Lester popping in the chat. Saying great stuff. Thanks, Lester. Appreciate it, Dad.
Look at the boss, man.
But we're also going to take a quick break here. All right, after that quick break, we are back. Danny is back on the board. Pick 64. Big old man in orange. Darnell Wright.
Okay, so let me start this out by saying this was purely value based on what I was looking at on the PFF simulator at the time I took him. I don't know what kind of athlete he's going to test like, but he is an enormous human being. He is 6'5", 340 plus pounds, massive mauling frame of a body, just an absolute bulldozer in the run game. And he seems to move pretty well on tape. I don't know how he's going to test. It's just, he's so enormous. It's hard to really just guess on that. He's got good strength, obviously, just given his size, and really powerful hands. And his feet, especially in comparison to 21 to now, he really calmed his feet down. And he has a really good ability to reroute pass rushers, unsurprisingly, because he's just bigger than everybody else. I do worry that he plays a little stiff. He doesn't really get much hip bend. He's more of a waist bender. And he doesn't seem to really have much of a plan, so much as just, I'm big, I'm going to put my hands on you and try to move you. And I'm not sure if he's been being taught it or it's just something he's fell into. He doesn't really have the classic technician or technique to him. He's kind of just hugging people. There is a hug technique which was popularized by the Green Bay Packers a few years ago, where it's kind of borderline holding, where you're making the pass rusher make the first move rather than engaging them. But I do wonder if that's just kind of him doing what he's always done versus being taught it, because he's just gotten away with being bigger and stronger than everyone his whole career. He also tends to get fooled with delayed blitzes and stunts and twists and stuff like that. It's a pretty easy teachable thing, but it shows up pretty pronounced, especially when you're coming up against SEC competition. So there's Darnell Wright's quick synopsis.
Yeah, I'm not gonna lie, my connection's terrible, so I only heard about half what you said there. I heard massive individual, and I'm okay with that.
He is Mason. He's enormous.
And this is we're getting out to the really this round, maybe moving forward. We're getting some players that I know that from Danny's. I'm I don't know, really I've heard of some of that going this way too. So I don't have really anything to add on that.
That's okay. It's all good, man.
So at my pick, he's interesting. Matthew Bergeron, 6'5", 323 pounds, out of Syracuse. Another man in orange, funny enough. Native of Montreal. So maybe try to get another Canadian. And here ever since. So he's got a lot of experience. Began as a right tackle before moving to left in 2020. So he has experience at both positions. And good body control. and mobility. Shows excellent awareness. Bergeron has the strong, flexible core, wide base to catch and handle moving defenders easily. Redirects, pivots, works well laterally, and he has pretty good length. But his inconsistency with hand tying has created some challenges for him protecting the edge. He's a solid run blocker, but honestly, it seems like he's a little weak. His functional strength is a bit limited, and he's pretty reliant on angles and his technique. Those could be into an NFL room, get him on that regimen. Maybe he struggles a little bit during his rookie year. Hopefully, he really shouldn't to play much. Let's be real. The hope is that the Bears fill through free agency and who they already have. And the problem is he transition a guard, so it depends on how you view that. If you want a true like tackle, he may not be for you. If you want someone that's got some flexibility between those two positions, he's someone that you could be looking at.
100% agreed, Mason. I think he really much needs the big boy weight training program in the NFL because he does lack real functional strength, and he's a little bit light through the old hips and ass there.
And again, Danny is back up. Round 3, pick 93.
Okay, so Noah Sewell, 6'2", 253 pounds, much more of the ilk of your older school linebacker. He seems to lack a little bit in coverage instincts and is much more of a two-down thumper, as it were. But I think he could make a really good contributor. He is the younger brother of Penei Sewell, the right tackle in Detroit, the very good right tackle in Detroit. But he's great size, really strong player. He stacks and sheds with the best of them, delivers the boomstick, as it were, when running backs are coming through the hole. He has no issue taking on like a fullback or a tight end in the running game. He did have some issues with fully wrapping up instead of exploding into oncoming ball carriers earlier in his career, but he definitely cleaned that up later, especially this year where he was much more form conscious. So while he does shed the blocks well, he does have issues with recognizing them. He seems to just be, like I said, more of a see ball, get ball, not really too much of aware of his surroundings. And he is like he's not fleet of foot, really. He tends to be a little bit slow getting to where he wants to go. But, playing him guard to guard isn't the worst thing. I wouldn't say he's necessarily a great fit, but I do like some of what he does offer because the Bears did lack a lot of ability in the way of sure tackling outside of Jack Sanborn most of this season. So he was more like he felt more like a safe pick than anything, as opposed to taking like just a raw athlete at linebacker, like the kid from Auburn, who you and I both took, Owen Papo, last episode, who I literally called an uncalibrated, unguided, heat-seeking missile. Just he's all athleticism, no idea what he's doing, versus Noah Sewell is just a little more safe and comes from football bloodlines and stuff like that. I think Sewell is a iffy fit, but I think he'd be a solid contributor.
I like the pick. I think in this defense, having just your linebacker be solid is good, because if you can create, which the Bears were awful at, but if you can create a solid defensive line, if you can have, depending on who you get, a Jalen Carter in the middle, if you can sign a Deron Payne, if Washington doesn't come to terms with him, if you can bring some edge help, you really just need guys who are going to get in there and make sure tackles. So a Noah Sewell's going to do that. Like you said, is he going to blow your socks off with some of the measurables and just do the wild, crazy stuff? No, but he's going to be in the right place at the right time, and he'll tackle the person that's in the hole. So that in this defense, that works.
Agreed.
Round 4, pick 3. I dipped back into the wide receiver pool, and I took Trey Palmer. out of Nebraska. 6'1",
I like
190.
Trey.
So I'm definitely on the smaller. I'm definitely on the smaller side with some of my my wide receivers I'm taking here. But he's a former track star who won the state title in high school, both in the 100-meter and 200-meter dashes, with a 200-meter time that set a state meet record. Originally committed to LSU, but after 3 seasons where he had 4 catches, 458 yards, 3 touchdowns, he decided to enter the transfer portal. He started every game this season for the Cornhuskers and led them in wide kick and punt return yards. This year, he had 71 catches for 1,043 yards, 14.7 yards per catch, 9 touchdowns, and when targeted, had a QB rating of 103.7. He tracks the ball very well, gets under the long ball, high points the ball, even though he's only 6'1". Used on jet sweeps and bubble screens a lot. Strong hands, and that really lead to drops as long as he doesn't lose concentration, which we're going to get to in a second. Gets off the line of scrimmage well with fast acceleration and some of the best top-end speed you'll see in this draft. At the combine, I expect him to do quite well in the 40. Doesn't win with elite routes, but uses his physical gifts and was not asked to run a very diverse route tree. He was kind of just asked, go run deep and fast. Definitely a better route than a recent wide receiver that was drafted by the Bears who can run fast. He plays at a pretty quick pace that sometimes at the catch point, he's already looking to the next move downfield and loses sight of the ball, which lets it hit his body. So that leads to some drops, which is a problem. And he also might get shut down by some physical corners. For me, he's kind of a mix between Diami Brown and Jalen Naylor, just in terms of what he brings to the table. So, I mean, if that's your thing, if you want a guy that could be a burner and can catch the ball deep, he's your guy.
Yeah, I mean, I actually really like Trey Palmer. I think I said that literally as you opened up with him. So I don't disagree with your assessment. He actually, for better or for worse, I know he left a bad taste in the mouth of a lot of Bears fans, but he kind of reminded me a bit of Mir Smith-Marset coming out of Iowa. Just a little bit. Maybe it's just the burner from the Big Ten kind of thing.
Don't say that. We got a Super Bowl champ.
Super Bowl champion Amir Smith-Marset. That's right. Oh, what's next?
Wild. Yeah.
It's me.
Moving on. Round 4, pick 103.
Okay. Kobe Turner from Wake Forest. He is someone I would project as a true, quote-unquote, 3-technique defensive tackle coming out of Wake Forest. I really like Kobe as a middle round, like gamble if you're trying to find like a better pass rusher in the middle coming out of the draft. But I will say for him lacking size, he's 6'3" and probably 285, 290 pounds. So he does fit into the smaller range, but he is strong. He plays with natural leverage, obviously, because he's shorter than most people he's going to be lining up against. He's got a good, strong core, good, strong base. He has really good transition of speed to power, but that's kind of where it ends in terms of like his physical abilities. He's got an array of moves. He always rushes with a plan, it feels like. He just makes life hell on any offensive lineman he's going to come up against because of his array of moves and his handwork and him being a true technician. Now, the part that's hard is despite him being ready for the NFL and the brutality of the league, because he plays hard, he plays strong, he plays fast, he isn't a natural athlete. He isn't the most gifted guy in terms of those measurables. He doesn't like explode off the ball with some wicked first step. He's not just kicking someone's ass inside with just unbelievable athletic ability. He has to win based on technique. And I really think that can play if he has help otherwise. But I think at the very least, if even he scratches the middle area of what his potential could be, you could have a rotational pass rusher inside who could even line up outside from time to time just because of his technique with how he plays. So I actually really like Kobe Turner from what I've watched.
Yeah, I mean, like he's definitely someone that if the Bears get to this point and drafted someone early, if they don't have number one and number two answers already by this point, whether it's through free agency and draft, Kobe Turner is someone that I'd be looking at for all the reasons you just said.
I'm actually kind of mad I used him this early in our mock draft series because I really like him.
Round 4, pick 132, stayed on the trenches.
Okay, Andrew Voorhees. You'll notice throughout this series that if I pick an offensive lineman, they play with a bad attitude and a nasty demeanor. And I really like Voorhees. I think he drops because he's been in college for 5 ever. I think he was there with Juju and everyone, Juju and Velus Jones. Kidding. He wasn't actually there with them, but he's just he's an older prospect, which later in the draft, especially if you think he can maybe step in and contribute right away, isn't the worst idea in the world. He run blocks really well. He has a pretty good anchor in his leg. He has a good leg drive when he does engage out in the run game. He doesn't really have much of an issue moving people out of the way. Picks up blitzers coming through the A and B gaps pretty well. And he has good handwork, but he doesn't really explode with much punch through his hands. He's more of a kind of similar to what I was saying about Darnell Wright earlier. He's kind of just this big body that he kind of just hugs you. He kind of gets his hands on you, and he has leg drive to move you around, but he isn't like the most aggressively blocking guy. I want to say he may have short arms, but I could be wrong on that. He is what he is. He's a middle round offensive lineman. He probably needs to get a little bit stronger, and he does tend to get if he loses inside leverage on his body, and because of his lack of core strength, he will get pushed back into the pocket. So he's probably got to get on the NFL. He's going to need to probably get on the NFL strength and conditioning program. But I like what he offers on the surface as an NFL prospect in terms of what he could be down the line. And Nomad kind of echoing the same thing I just said. He needs to get stronger. Now, I don't know how much stronger he can get. USC is a big-time program. They've got real strength and conditioning coaches there. It's obviously not the same level as the NFL, but you just wonder how much time or how much work can be put into a frame that's already been worked on for 5 years.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, like you said, round 4, you're just looking for either for something potential, or you're looking for like just stability. If he can strengthen up a little bit, the size is good. I think you're right. His arm length might have been on the lower side. I'd have to double check and look that up, but it'll be definitely an interesting guard prospect at this stage.
Don't worry, we're going to have plenty of measurements coming in the next few months.
Back up. Round 4. I stayed in the trenches too. And last week I took a center, and this week I'm also going to take a center. It's going to be happening a lot. I think with what you have and how important this is. I mean, you just saw Super Bowl played by one of the best centers in the league out of Kelsey. You need one, and I think it's smart to get one in free agency and then have someone you're developing. But this guy may not even need to develop. He's a redshirt senior, 6'3", 310 pounds. Dagoon, 4-year starter at Michigan, plays with an incredibly high football IQ with an angle there to be core of Michigan. In 2022, he quarterback hurries, 5 hits, only no sacks while playing at center. And he won the Outland Trophy as well as the Remington Trophy this year, which is pretty impressive for him as a center. Consistently sees alerts and works his touch to help identify potential blitzers. Blitzing defense indicates cerebral player is how it's described in a lot of reports. As a hand strength and punch timing is one of his strong suits. With the necessary, the agility, technique, and size will let him shoot pretty early. His quick, active hands struggles to maintain an advantage position sometimes with a set. results in some inconsistent levels, since tends to kind of forward bend sometimes and overly use some extension as well at the low back, and forces him to bend at the waist to become too heavy at times. Kick slide is inconsistent and will set too high. Not dominant in terms of his run blocking, but can do well in zone blocking, which, obviously is good for the Bears. Needs to work on lower body flexibility. And actually, just Nomad just said, I think he could be a starter in week 1. You might one just in case. But if you don't go and get right out of like a Browns center, someone like that, he would be someone that.
Yep.
Oh, I forgot to spin his name. Well, there you go. That's his name. Bold move to pick the white DB.
You gotta sometimes mix it up and go with the minority in a bunch of majorities positions. Riley is an interesting prospect in that he was also one of Bruce Feldman's freaks. He is pretty big, I want to say. He's like 6 foot, 195 pounds. And I think there's reports of him vertical jumping is 42 inches or something like that. The guy has immense measurables. That actually kind of reminds me of everyone being shocked when Alec Pierce out of Cincinnati last year as a wide receiver started running and jumping, and everyone's like, who is this kid? But he again, pretty older prospect. He played five seasons, over 2,600 snaps for his time at Iowa. He has good ball production, recording 11, 12 interceptions since the 2018 season. Big time vertical leaper, as evidenced by his 42-inch vertical leap. He tends to hit pretty well. From what I noticed, when he spots the ball, he lowers his shoulder, he puts his body into people, and he finishes the hits. And the other nice thing about him is, especially in the back end of the 4th round, is he's a special teams contributor. Now, the issues come back. He doesn't have the best route recognition. He is more of long speed than he is a quick 1-2-3 speed. I think he would actually be a perfect fit in this defense, because of what he offers in the physicality department and his ability to play a system versus rely fully on his skills, despite some of what his natural gifts appear to reportedly be. I wouldn't expect much in the way in terms of him being a Asante Samuel, as it were, where he's this ball hawking defender, where he's just breaking on routes and making quarterbacks think twice about throwing over there. But I think he can play his system very well. And I actually kind of like Nomad just echoed in our comment section, he's going to be a steal for a system like this. And I would agree, that's why I picked him. I think he'd be an excellent fit for Matt Eberflus in this system. If not for nothing else, he could be good depth. He can contribute on special teams. And I just kind of like everything he offers, despite being a white corner.
Yeah, I just like that. Who was it? Maybe I don't know where they ended up. Who ran the 40 and blew it away at the combine, and Deion Sanders had to dap him up because he was talking. That
would be that
smack before he ran.
That was Troy Apke.
The fact he just blew it out of the water. But yeah, I think some people are gonna legitimately look at Riley Moss and make that same assumption and be like, he's a white DB. What's the point? And whoever takes him, if you can get him in the free, because of, again, you covered it really well. All the things you said, he fits this system well.
I think coaches are going to love him. They're going to get him in the meeting room on the whiteboard, and he's going to blow them away. Which is so stereotypical to cite.
Just feeding into the stereotype generator right now. It's funny, we're kind of bouncing back and forth a little bit on this, but I actually also went DB, but I went with
Mekhi Gardner. Oh, I was going to say, was Riley also the son of a football coach? Is his dad like the local town football coach?
Well, no, I got Mekhi Garner pick round 5, 6'2", 220. Fifth-year senior DB, transferred to LSU after he was actually Louisiana Lafayette. He made an impact as a player pretty much right away with high instincts, who was willing to provide a physical presence on the boundary of defense. Plus, he really plays his own defense with his eye on the quarterback, but he can play man. High-end closing speed and a high football IQ. 2022. Speed is going to be an issue. Can he keep up with his in stride for the first 30 yards or so? But as the play elongates, as on those deeper routes, he really get burnt. He did not have a lot of ball production either, which has been a big problem for the Bears. When you look at let's say Jalen Johnson, that's a big question in terms of getting the contract has been an issue with his ball production or lack thereof. He had 3 interceptions in 2020, Mekhi Garner that is, and only 1 in 2021, and then none in 2022. Now, were people not throwing to his side of the field as much, or is that an issue that he was not as productive? So that's in the 5th round. I'll take the size and the length and the intelligence at corner, since you're probably not getting some of the top speed.
I would agree with that. I like Garner. Because I actually had him available in my simulator too, it really came down to fit for me. And I just think that Riley fits very well. That's all. But I can't ever take him.
One more break here, then we'll wrap it up. Oh, we got multiple drafts, right? So in theory, maybe Garner sneaks drafts in the future.
Uh-oh.
But we will be back after a short break. Bye. Coming back off the break, I'm back up. Round 150. I'm going to tell you right now, I stole this pick from Brett Coleman. He wowed me with the description of this man. This tight end from North Dakota State. He's 6'6", 270 pounds, and has the frame that he could add another 10 to 15 pounds pretty easily. And he plays with every bit of that 270-pound frame he does currently have. If a Bear played tight end, that would be Noah. DBs have a hard time bringing him down once he gets on the run, and linebackers also will struggle there too. He's got way better movement than you would think for his size. He had a major injury, so he won't be testing at the combine. You'll get medicals, you'll get interview. But if you look at the tape, it shows some physicality, and not even just some, there's a lot of physicality. It shows fluidity. He's got long arms, which will create a large catch radius. Pretty natural hands, doesn't fight the ball, and which lets him catch it in traffic. As a junior in 2020, he had 17 catches for 193 yards and 2 touchdowns with a quarterback rating with target of 97.1. He only played in 3 games for North Dakota State. Like I said, he had that lower leg injury that ended his season. So, but in those 3 games, though, he had 74 yards and a touchdown. Not too shabby. He doesn't have a ton of suddenness as a runner, and he definitely needs some work as a blocker. I think, once you start to get some of those tight ends that are 6'5", 6'6", etc., you got to try to figure out how to get your pad level right, or else you're going to get abused by people better. But at this stage, I'm not even sure he'll make it to round 5. It really depends. There could be someone that falls in love with his tape and he sneaks up a round or 2. But if you're going to take a chance on a tight end in the later stages around this area, this is who I would go with.
I get it. It's a lottery ticket at that point. We're at the point in the draft now where lottery tickets are kind of what you're looking for. In a sense.
Absolutely. Danny's got some more picks, though, before I get to go again. So round 5, pick 150.
All right, Dontavion Wicks. So let me be frank here and say this is one of my favorite middle round receivers, I think, to this point. I'm probably going to say that a lot when we do these because you're picking guys you like and you've studied. He is 6'2", 215 or so pounds, I'd guess. I want to be frank here. I do not think he's going to be available in the 5th round. He had an excellent Senior Bowl from what memory serves. He is, if you go there and watch the tape, the first thing that really pops out. I'll be right back. Okay, so
Taking a short
just an app.
Oh, just kidding.
I
think Danny's back.
I'm right back. Sorry, had to go check on something. He is a tightrope master. He's a true outside ball winning wide receiver. He tightropes the sidelines very well. Great body control, strong hands in the air. He actually is really. I think he's going to time really well because I see you watch him and he seems to be pulling away from people when he's playing. And he gets to his top speed. It feels like in the blink of an eye. And then you look at just like, you see the picture on here. He really is put together well. Things you just gotta worry about with him is he sometimes is a body catcher. Like he lets the ball get within his body, and he has to probably get a little more experience and more comfortable against zone. I feel like he's more of a man beater at this point versus he is a man beater versus having a real feel versus zone. So it's going to be a work in progress, which is why you're getting him in the middle of the rounds. But like I said, once he tests and goes through his pro day, and I'm sure when they get him when coaches get one-on-one time with him, they're going to really love this kid. Because I know I'm never going to meet him, obviously, but I know from what I've watched, I really like what I've seen. Clean up some of the hand stuff, get him more comfortable against zone, make sure he learns how to use all his physical gifts and not just one at a time, use them in unison with each other. I think you're going to have a player on your hands.
Yeah, I mean, as Danny said with my last pick, lottery ticket. He really could be a guy that goes earlier than this, just as he tests more and all that. But he could be a guy that does fall. It really depends. A lot of these guys are a little hit and miss right now, but his Senior Bowl brought attention, and I think that's the same for a lot of clubs out there. Danny's up again. Final picks for each of us, and look at that, friend of the podcast, Dorian Thompson Robinson,
DTR. So don't really need to go much into him. Longtime starter for the Bruins program. Really helped Chip Kelly turn the old ship around there. I really don't want to go too much into him. I think Mason and I are like the president and vice president of like the DTR like fan society. Like I don't think there's a better late round quarterback to draft and bring into this system with Luke Getsy and Justin Fields and try to establish more of what they're looking for doing. We covered him last episode. I don't need to go into Dorian Thompson Robinson again. Good, Mason.
No, I get you. But like you said, I think if there's anyone that fits well to be a late pick to back up Justin, it'd be him. If you don't get him, maybe you could look at he redshirted his freshman season, and he actually missed 2020 with an injury that sidelined him for the whole year. He suffered 2 concussions in less than 3 games in 2019, and then was injured for the duration of the 2020 season. He also had an ankle injury in the 2022 season finale, leading him to miss the bowl game. So that some of his ability to stay on the field, right, availability is the best ability. That was an issue for him. So that's one of the reasons he's dropping. As a junior in 2022, he played in a total of 12 games, passed for over 3,000 yards, and put up a completion percentage of 65.7%, 31 touchdowns, 12 sacks, and a QB rating of 112.7. As a runner, he logged 63 runs for 379 yards. He got a couple awards, too, in 2022. Independent Offensive Player and Quarterback of the Year, All Independent First Team by College Football Network, the Phil Steele All Independent First Team. I mean, all the independent awards, however you want to take that. Played baseball, and you can see it with his arm angles. Plays pretty balanced, light on his feet. Not as good of a runner as DTR, who, I highlighted and Danny just talked a little bit about his last week, but he can do enough to definitely hold those backside defenders. Good timing on short routes and a strong arm that can make any NFL throw. Like, he doesn't have an elite arm, but he has a very good arm that can make the throws you need him to make. A little smaller at 6'1", better than some prospects that are considered to be top in this year. Whoever you're talking about. Many reads at BYU were only half field reads, and he tends to throw off his back foot when things get messy, and he's going to be 25 by the draft. So, I mean, as your backup quarterback, I would rather have someone that I don't want a Trevor Siemian anymore. No offense to him. I sure as hell don't want a Nathan Peterman, as the Bears actually are going to try to win some games compared to the tank mode they were in last year. Get me someone like a DTR. Get me someone like a Jaron Hall that, if Justin goes down, if he's got a little injury that just makes sense, hey, heal up for a week or two, that you could slide someone in and you don't have to change the entire offense. Like, you can know they're not Justin Fields. No one's Justin Fields, but at least they can do their best representation of him, right? They can be that B cast that you see at a matinee of a Broadway show, and you see the person that's like a good singer, but like they're not the greatest singer.
Mm-hmm. Jaron Hall just needs to go hire Zach Wilson's publicist. That's all.
100%. But these are our drafts. Again, just running through mine real quick. I traded the first pick, got 2 first-rounders. I got a second-rounder this year and then a future first. I also got edge Miles Murphy, wide receivers Zay Flowers, Kalijah Cansey, Jahmyr Gibbs, Anthony Bergeron, Trey Palmer. The center, one of my favorite picks is really Alusigun at center. Mekhi Garner, Noah Gindorf would be someone I would just root for mercilessly for no reason. And then Jaron Hall. Danny got actually a pretty solid draft haul, but traded back a good bit. Was able to get Jackson Smith-Njigba. I'm not going to pronounce his name right. Adetoyinka. That's the best I'm going to do right now. Zach Charbonnet, Darnell Wright, Noah Sewell, Kobe Turner, Andrew Voorhees, Riley Moss. That's probably my favorite pick on your end is Riley Moss. In terms of the value at the spot, Dontavian Wicks and Dorian Thompson Robinson. Danny, what are your thoughts on these 2 drafts? Final thoughts.
Miles Murphy, I think you took a little too high, but I can totally see why you did it. I really like Jahmyr Gibbs. But I'm on the building the board thing. I'm the linebacker and running back guy. You're going to be hard pressed to get me mad over taking a talented running back in the top 50 at the 54th pick. I really liked your Ola. Again, same thing. The Michigan center is Olawadimi. I think I did it justice again. I really liked that pick, and then obviously Gindorf from North Dakota State is there to like. It's funny that you said that Moss being your favorite. Like, I like the Charbonnet pick from mine, Moss, and then Dontavian Wicks. So I like one of the second-round picks and 2 of the back-round picks, and the rest of it is like I could change it and not really be upset about it.
In full transparency, my Miles Murphy pick, I took. So I think I said the Seahawks, they trade up and took a quarterback. I had Will Anderson sitting there. I could have taken him. I'm honestly just saving that pick since we can't double down. So I could have taken Will Anderson at 5, but I'm waiting to get some combine stuff and all that, hopefully before I take him, just to keep things interesting. There's no reason to front load our drafts with all the really, really interesting top people. So I agree with you. Miles Murphy was a bit rich there. I would have liked him. I don't say maybe even at 9, maybe like kind of what you took Jackson Smith. So I'm right on par with what you thought there. But I'll throw this on Twitter tomorrow. We'll throw a poll up, see what people like. I know behind the scenes again, Danny, you sent me this, and then the next text was, I don't like my draft. So that was great.
Oh God, life of a draft, Nick. Let me tell you.
How many times do you think that has to happen, right? Like, there's literally an NFL team that they woke up the next. Every time we talk about how people are like, "Oh, the NFL teams are saying like, yeah, we killed the draft. This is the year." There has to be an NFL team that woke up the next day and the GM is like, "Dude, I messed up. Like, this
It's like
isn't
that.
good."
It's like that TikTok sound. Oh, I fucked up.
Like,
Oh,
that
I
has to have
fucked
happened,
up.
right?
Oh, I'm sure it is. Like these guys. It's like anytime these guys get like a 5th-round steal. Like, oh, he was number 10 on our total board. Like, no, he freaking wasn't. Don't lie to me. Oh
But
God.
thank you all that were listening and sticking through. I know my end was probably a little choppy, stupid weather and all that jazz playing it on this side. So thanks for pushing through. We're gonna keep doing this. We'll have another special guest on. Well, not another. We didn't have one today. Khari, Khari. Hopefully your kid's doing great. I don't know if you actually gonna watch this or not. Probably not. But yeah, he had daddy duty. We'll have a special guest on in 2 weeks, and then Khari will come back 2 weeks from then. And we'll so on and so forth. We'll get other people's perspectives until leading up to our final draft, and hopefully maybe we can do something fun for that to really round it out.
Absolutely. Always a fun time, Mason.
All right. Well, we'll wrap up here. Bear the hell down, everybody.